Hello, ladies, and welcome to my channel. We do women empowerment defying the odds, and my name is Irva. And today I have a very special guest. I'm so excited. I have Senator Tessa St here, and she's from a tiny island in the Caribbean called Grenada. And she's from my village, St. Andrews, Grenville. So for all my viewers from Grenada, hello. And for my viewers here, Grenada is really small. Grenville is the largest parish. St. Andrews actually is the largest parish. So I'm really excited because it's like my country, my kin here. So Senator Tessa St here, and guys, you'll understand why I'm calling a senator later on. Tell us a little about yourself.
So this is usually the most difficult topic for me to talk about myself. I'm a country girl. I like to say that. I am authentically country. I grew up in the country. I was born in Grenville. I am the last of 5 siblings. I have 2 brothers and two sisters. So I was kind of the spoiled one in the family, the last.
The baby, yes.
I went to St. Andrews Anglican Primary School, and then I went to the Grenville Secondary School. From there, I went on to what was then the Grenada National College, where I studied modern languages, Spanish, French, English.
Oh, wow.
From there, I went on to teach at Grenville Secondary.
Oh, wow.
Taught modern languages there, became a head of department there, became a head of form level or block, as we used to call it there. I did a bachelor's in educational administration with the University of the West Indies. And then I did a master's of science in human resource development and performance management. And then I went on to do, I moved from teaching at the secondary level and went to teach at St. George's University. And actually that's an interesting story there in itself, because my initial recruitment was an administrative position. So I'm actually the accreditation coordinator for the Masters of Public Health program. And so I basically function as the total quality manager, if you want to call it that, in terms of accreditation. Okay. So I ensure that we meet all the accreditation standards, that we remain compliant with that. I write our self-study. I basically provide supervision guidance for my colleagues as it relates to accreditation. And having gone through Teachers College, I'm also a qualified teacher. And so when my then boss saw that, I was a qualified teacher, he wasn't satisfied that I would just hold this administrative position.
Yes.
I would have to get into the teaching as well.
Yes.
Albeit it was a new area to me, because I like to say that I do not have a degree in public health. But because I've been there for all these years, and then I was pushed into teaching it, directing a couple courses there as well, I had to basically educate myself. And learn from my colleagues as it relates to public health. And so a lot of the things that we're hearing now, I kind of introduce our students to those concepts, the whole of surveillance and, health education and promotion and contact tracing and all those things. And I learn a lot from my colleagues as well. I'm kind of curious. I'm a kind of curious person.
It paid off.
It did. And I spent a lot of hours, reading. When you get thrown into a teaching role that you're new to, you basically have to read the text and research and all of that to get up to speed, because you want to teach the students that are in front of you the right thing, the relevant thing. So I had to basically, it's a lifelong process anyways, learning. So learn and keep on learning. And so I was also thrust into this whole idea of, hey, Tessa, you seem like a brilliant girl. Why don't you go ahead and do your doctorate? You know, my then boss, and ever so often he just kept on pushing and niggling. And, you know, and then I say, you know what, maybe this is something I should consider. And here am I today. I submitted my doctoral thesis a couple weeks ago.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Good for you.
I'm waiting to defend that. And that in itself is kind of an empowerment, you know, for others looking at your video, you know. As we talk, I guess we would get into the
Yes. Oh my, Tessa, honestly, well, Senator St here, you actually, I'm listening, I'm like, wow, this lady has a lot of qualifications. And I mean, just because I grew up in Grenada, I know, you know, it's sort of difficult at points to get all this kind of education because you know, we don't have a lot of universities home and stuff like that. I know I saw, because I'm looking at your profile still on, I wouldn't say where your profile is, but I know you studied at Cave Hill, so that's not in Grenada, right? Cave Hill.
Well, actually, we have a university center. So here is, can I call you over?
Of course.
So here is what I did over. I had a daughter, right? And while I would have gotten the opportunity to further my studies in modern languages, I had a daughter and I had to make a conscious decision as to whether I should leave my daughter at home to be raised, even though it's for a couple of years, to be raised by my mother and sisters and so on, and to take this opportunity to go to study. And I made the hard decision to stay. So I basically did this, and I know it's gonna, I get it all the time, and I'm not boasting or, you know, but again, it's just for empowering men who, you know, have these kinds of situations. And I basically was thrown again into, I like life, you know, it throws some things. And then you have to react.
You gotta work with it, right? You gotta get creative. Yeah, you have to react to it. Yeah.
So I was teaching, I had a daughter, and my sister migrated to Canada, and she had 2 children. And then my mother decided to follow her. So I ended up with 3 children.
Wow. And now you're teaching, you have your career, you're taking care of 3 children, and
I decided to undertake a bachelor's in educational administration. Wow. So I did all of that while all of this is going on. And then I said, you know what, this isn't going to cut it. I need to move forward, because basically these days everybody is graduating from college and moving on, having an undergrad degree and so on. So that, you know, a bachelor's degree just doesn't cut it anymore.
I know, yes.
So I had to push myself to do that. Yeah.
Okay, guys, okay, viewers, I'm going to remind you again, this lady is taking care of 3 children. She's from Grenada. She's not in the Western world there, and she's doing all these things academically. But what I realized just from you talking, I can see that education is your passion, not just for yourself, but look where you ended up. So even if you probably didn't see these things as you were growing into a teenager and stuff, at some point you got it. And probably you still didn't even realize that you're teaching and stuff, but you didn't realize how big this dream was gonna get, right? So, so I'm gonna ask you though, so when you were growing up though, because you went to, St. Andrews Anglican, and then Grenville Secondary for high school, did you have any mentors? Did someone, I know you have an older sibling or older siblings, were they the ones you look up to and say, I want to be, you know, or you just on your own, you're like, okay, just stumble around and this is what my passion, this is what I like?
I'm actually laughing at that, you know, not what you're asking, but just the memories of it coming back. I tend to be stubborn. I tend to be an independent thinker. We had a parliament session today and somebody told me that I'm a difficult woman. I said, no, I'm an outspoken woman. I had to make that differentiation. I'm not a difficult person. I'm an outspoken person. And so I tended to take my own routes to end up where I am here. I cannot say that I did not have mentors. At the time of primary school, I would not have perhaps considered them mentors. But
Yes.
I had, I looked up to people like Mr. Isaac, who used to teach at the Anglican school. I looked up to people like Mr. Dennis Bell,
Hmm.
Mr. Byron Sinclair, just persons who were, making an impact in education,
Hmm.
even though it was in a, not a acknowledged, you
Hmm.
know,
It's not a like, yeah, it's
right,
yeah,
formally
yeah, it's not
acknowledged,
that, yeah.
right? So they were there contributing, and I'm seeing them. And mind you, my intention was never to be a teacher, right? My intention was always to be either an air hostess or an interpreter,
Oh wow.
right?
Well, that
And
explained the languages, yes.
there you go. And
Hmm.
then as I started growing up some more and exploring different, vocations and so on, I said to myself, maybe even an ambassador was within my scope,
It
and
is
that
still
kind of,
within.
yeah, that was kind of influenced by my cousin Caldwell Taylor. He's my
Mhm.
first cousin,
Oh
and
wow.
he used to be ambassador to the I think it was the UN or the
Hmm.
US in the revolution period.
Hmm.
And so people kept talking about Caldwell Taylor. And so, I said, maybe that's something I could
Wow,
possibly
yeah.
think about. And so I went into the modern languages, not just because I had a knack for it, but
Hmm.
also because of that. I'm thinking that that would allow me to broaden my scope outside of Grenada.
Wow, yes.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't branch out at this stage in your life into the modern art, I still think ambassadorship is still in your future, because from talking to you, you seem to be that person with that kind of drive. I won't be surprised in the next few years if I message you and I hear you're an ambassador somewhere to the UN, to Canada, wherever, right? So we'll see. But I want to ask you though, because you talk a lot, and I think this should be a really easy question now. What gives you value when you think about yourself, probably now? What gives your life or yourself as a person, as a woman, value?
Um, there are a couple of things. For me, a big thing is integrity.
Mm,
You know, um, I like to think of myself as my own brand, and I know people
wow.
don't think of themselves as a brand.
I like it though. Yes.
But yeah, I started thinking of myself, so when somebody has Tessa, a certain image comes into their
Mhm.
mind. So I'm creating my own brand,
Wow,
who
that is.
I am.
Mhm,
Yeah. So I like to focus a lot on integrity. People
mhm,
must be able to count on me to do what I say
mhm,
that I will do. I like inclus- inclusiveness.
mhm.
So I tend to interact with just about everybody, just about everybody, from the gentleman on the back of the garbage truck who
Wow,
would
yes.
look back at the car and
Mhm.
wave. And sometimes we get so caught up in ourselves and we get a little
Yes.
cocky and we what. And I tend to wave at them and say hi and have a little conversation. The
Mhm,
boys on the block, just about anybody. The
mhm,
guys smoking, those who are drinking by the rum shop, just I like to engage with people.
mhm.
I like to
Wow.
engage with people. I like to be on the ground. And that's why I said to you in the beginning, I'm authentically country.
You know what, though? And you remind me a little of myself, growing up. Now I'm that girl too. And I like that you said your brand. And one of my guests previously had said that, like, her brand is her name, and she actually named her business. So if you go, and I like that, because and the values that you portray, it's reflected in your brand. So when somebody hear Tessa, these are the things. So when they look at Tessa, they're supposed to see these things that you want to portray: integrity, those sort of things, and being inclusive and all this stuff like that. So that's a good thing. And putting it out there, if you put yourself as a brand, you got to stick to the positiveness, right? Because if you start throwing out negative things, that's the brand you're selling, right?
Exactly.
But I'm going to point at something, because I'm going to address the senator. But actually, before we get to the senator, on your Facebook, you had this quote, and you mentioned something just now that popped it in my head. Change is brought about because ordinary people do extraordinary things. And
Yeah.
I think it fits you perfectly. So just tell me why that quote.
It spoke to me. It
Mhm.
spoke directly to me. I always say, I'm not all that.
Mhm.
Yes, I have all these things to my name. Yes, I may be doing all these things. But I like to humble myself and say, you know what? I am not all that. Somebody, something, some value, some outcome, some anticipation is there fueling that. And sometimes,
Wow.
we cut ourselves down. I'm not cutting myself down, mind you, when I
Mhm.
say I'm not all that. But
Mhm.
it's a humbling thing, so that we do not get too much outside of ourselves to think, we can't learn, somebody
Yes.
can't teach us
Yes.
something and all of that.
Mhm.
That quote, that specific quote was really for motivation. You come from poor background, you come from whatever stresses you had. And I like to say that, again, not to bring down my upbringing and so on, but we grew up humble. My mother
Mhm.
worked in the nutmeg pool.
Mhm.
My father worked in agriculture. Um, I basically grew up, and again, I need your viewers to understand this. I grew up with two alcoholic parents.
Wow.
And so when you think, I hear young people and I speak to young people all the time. And sometimes they say to me, Miss, you don't understand my situation.
And you're like,
Yeah.
I've been there.
And I was speaking to a group of Form 5s preparing for exam
Mhm.
not too long ago, and I said to them, there are specific vocations, there are jobs. We may consider them this or that or the next, but my question to them was, somebody has to do it, but does it have to be you?
Yes, that's a good
you know
question.
and
Mhm.
that's you push yourself. Yeah, you come from this background, yeah, you had these experiences, but
But
you rise above that and you
yes,
become extraordinary, and that's
I
why
like
that
it.
yeah.
I like it. I like a few things you said there. And listen, you sound like a politician. You're starting to sound like one. You got my vote. I can see you up there on your platform. I can see you doing this because I can see the genuineness and the authenticness, and your brand is coming through right now. So I really like that. But I like what you said though. Somebody has to do it. It doesn't have to be you. And it doesn't mean you're putting someone's job down, or there's no, higher ups and stuff like that, but you always just strive for the best. And I like the fact that you said you grew up, not the facts, right, that the issues surrounding you growing up with parents that were, alcoholics, or doing agriculture or anything like that. But it's just, and I want my viewers to know that, because I have some teenage viewers too, it's just to show you it wasn't a bed of roses. And we don't sit here, she's not sitting here going, it's impossible. You're going to have some challenges, but you got to rise above them. So yes, we've heard your stories before because we've lived them ourselves. That's basically what it is, right? But you got to find that place and rise above it. And this lady here took care of her child. She doesn't look like she has children. Her siblings, kids, first degree, second degree, just handed out her thesis. It's doable. Now, because you're talking like a politician, I'm gonna ask you. You're a senator, and you're a female senator, and I think based on what I heard recently, you were the only female opposition senator. And
That's
I'm
correct.
gonna back up for a second, because I left home a little bit longer, but when I was growing up, it was the only female person in politics I could remember was Miss Strawn.
Right.
The name just stood out a lot.
Winifred Strawn.
Yeah, I can't remember, and it was kind of just everybody knew her name because that was like the only person that kind of stood at this female person. So for you, now I know there are much more women in politics, home and in ministries and stuff like that. So that's a good thing, it shows progression. But you being the only senator that's a female with in a male opposition senator. Tell me first what happened. How did you end up there? Did you say, hey, pick me? You're a teacher, you're an admin, you became a professor. Now you're a senator. And tell us then how you're managing all these different hats you wear.
Right. So it goes back to the brand again over,
Mhm.
because I didn't mention it, but um, quality is a big thing for me. So if
Mhm.
I cannot engage meaningfully, if I cannot make that impact, I'm going to step aside. I'm going to refuse an offer. I would not just accept offers because, it would maybe self promote or,
Mhm.
self-aggrandizement or any
Yes.
of those things, you know. So I was actually sought out.
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
present myself, I was sought out. And I had a couple of persons sought me out, and I kind of decided, hey, you know, I don't think I want to have that conversation with you right now.
Mhm.
And it kept coming, and then I threw up my hands. I was in my office one day, and I got a call. We want to meet with you again. Um, can you make yourself available? We're willing to meet with you on your own terms. Your brand
Wow.
speaks.
Your own terms, right? Yep.
Yeah. And so I said, okay, let's meet. And I went to the meeting. And I was asked, would I consider this? And my question then was, of all the people in Grenada, why did you decide to ask Tessa?
Mhm.
Those were my exact words. And I guess the Mr. Clement, who is the honorable opposition leader at the
Mhm.
moment, that kind of stumped him in a way, because he kind of started to give me a response.
He's never heard someone ask him that. They would generally
Exactly.
say yes.
Yeah, exactly. This is a position that people maybe like to be in. They're
Mhm.
in the forefront, they're in the public. People, mind you, senators and ministers get this kind of recognition and the
I
perks
can
that come with
imagine.
it and all of
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
right? So I guess they're accustomed to people just jumping and saying yes. And here I was saying, why did you choose
Mhm.
me? Because I need to have this conversation. I'm not just going to get into anything that's going to, one, cause me to compromise standards that I have and all of those things. And
That.
we had that
Mhm.
conversation because I'm
Mhm.
big on that. I'm not going to get into a situation where, I'm in a compromising situation, or
Mhm.
where I may have to put some of my values down to do certain things.
Mhm.
And he said, well, somebody recommended you, and we decided to have the conversation. And I said to him, okay, I'm going to go home. I'm going to reflect on this. I'm going to pray about it. I'm going to speak to, the persons. I do not make these decisions in isolation. I do
Mhm.
not have all of the tools to make these
Yes.
big decisions.
Mhm.
And so, I have conversations with people that I hold very close to me, my own inner circle.
Mhm.
And I had that conversation, and I got back to him and say, okay, I'm going to say yes to you, but
What's the but? Tell us the but, please. We're dying.
that big thing came back. If at any point I feel that this does not serve the people's interest, I am going to walk away. This isn't
Wow.
about Tessa. This is
Mhm.
about making an impact. This is about serving. This is
Mhm.
about making a contribution to nation building. And
Mhm.
at any point this changes focus, I'm going to walk away.
Wow. I like, you know what? And you say, and honestly, Tessa, and guys, I didn't know Tessa before. Like, I think I've seen her as a child, but as an adult person, I just heard she's a senator, and I was really interested in what's her stories. But just chatting with you though, and I can see the selflessness, and I like you said, you talk about compromising your standards, and I want to put it there for our young viewers and older people too. Not everything that comes your way means you have to say yes and take it. Really, you have to find your integrity, and there are certain things that may compromise your standard, but because it's all you dreamt of, you don't need to do it. You still have to be responsible to you and hold your values high. And so I really appreciate the fact that you said, though, if it was going to compromise your standards, no. The other good thing, though, when you build a good reputation and it comes back to your brand, that you were sought out, you didn't go looking for a position. Even when you're talking about being at the university, you didn't go say, hey, can I be a professor? I want to apply. I've been a teacher for years. They looked at you and say, okay, this is her credentials to offer this person's position. So it's a testament of the kind of ethics that you have. So I want to put it out there again, ladies, ethics. It's really good. Do you work honestly and be honest and true to yourself?
Yeah.
You're really talking like a politician. I love the fact that you said about serving the nation, and it's about service. And that we don't hear a lot about that. And I know, yes, being a politician, I can only imagine it comes with lots of perks. Plus, it's a big name. Even if it's Grenada, you're
Yeah.
popular. you get to travel countries, you're representing your country, people seeing you, to knowing you. So I can only imagine the accolades and stuff that it goes. But I love the fact that still for you though, if it wasn't something about service, and you mentioned service and nation building, that it wasn't something that you're gonna continue to entertain, or something that you would have done. So thanks for that. So tell us, let me just see here. Tell us about being a mom. How do you manage these things that you're involved in? Because being a parent is challenging in itself. You're studying, you're taking care of kids, now you're in the Senate, you have a full-time job. How's that working out?
Um, by the grace of God.
Well,
So I like to put that out there, because I would have done none of this had it not been for God. Persons meet me and they ask me. At first, actually, it started when I was teaching at GSS. And I kept encouraging my colleagues. I said, "Why y'all don't do a degree?" And I heard, "Oh, I don't have the money." And I said, "Well, I didn't have the money, but I stepped out in faith, and it happened." "Oh, well, I have all these things going on." And I say, "Well,
yes.
I have all these things going on too."
Mm-hmm.
And as you rightly said, being a parent is, a mammoth task.
Mm-hmm. I'm one, I know.
Mommy and preparing this. And if I tell you a little secret, I literally cook every day.
Oh my God.
I do that every day.
What is wrong with you? Oh, what is right with you?
I ask myself the same thing. What is wrong with you, Tessa? But I grew up having a home cooked meal every day. And so I brought this into my own family. I'm not going to say at times it's not, very trying. It's not sometimes challenging. You have the food and you're trying to figure out what to make and so on.
Yes.
But at least for me, I knew what I was eating. I knew what I was giving my family. And that is important for me.
Yeah.
Being a parent means sacrifices. Sometimes big sacrifices. And so I stepped back a couple of times and I asked myself, is it worth it? And my answer has always been yes.
Yes.
Is it worth it? Make these sacrifices for your family. Is it worth it? Of course it's worth it. Of course it's good to know, for your children to know that they're getting something wholesome to eat. It's good for them to even see that mommy's making a sacrifice to do this. And so they appreciate those things, not growing up too privileged, because we have a group of youngsters growing up very privileged and they don't understand that this is a sacrifice. And so indirectly, I was teaching my kids some of the values that I grew up with. Yes, now mommy and daddy is able to do all of these things, but remember they came from a humble background. They worked themselves upwards. And it's okay to eat provision and saltfish. Mind you, I could eat that every day.
I could eat that every day too, so I'm good. I don't get it enough, but I'll take it. When I go to the West Indian store and I get, oh, you think it's heaven. But anyways, go ahead.
Exactly. And so I really didn't see it as a stressor. Yes, as a challenge, but a challenge to manage my time and my activities better, a challenge to manage my energies and my efforts. And so, sometimes other persons would try to get into your space and ask you to do things. And again, I want to come back to that point. Not everybody that asks, you need to say yes. Not everybody is entitled to your effort and energy. So you have to know who to allow in and who to allow not to allow in, and think of the outcomes down the road if it's going to be positive. And I like the hashtag positive vibes only. I love that hashtag. And I also have the hashtag in my Facebook thing is warrior mindset. If you don't have that warrior mindset, you're not going to make it. And so these conversations, you have to have these internal conversations with yourself almost daily. You can do this. Yes, it's challenging. Some things you just throw behind your back and move on. You don't think too much. You don't take on all these things. You don't come on Facebook and you read a post and think somebody is saying something at you and you just fill your head, your mind with all this heaviness, you know, so much so that you cannot function in the realm that you're placed in, you know, you cannot bloom where you're planted. And so I tend to throw these things behind my back and say, don't bother with that girl. And
Wow. Okay. I like that because, and I could, the smile that you had when you said it, and I know being in politics, and I don't know if you're into mainstream, but you're a senator, I can only imagine people say things, and I've started to follow a lot of Grenada politics. I see the words that's going on there. But I can tell when you say throw it behind you and you smile, you really threw it. You sound like you're like, it doesn't affect me. It doesn't change my day. Just words, So I like that. And for young people there, listen, I'm in the Western world here, and words are bullying them. And I'm not putting bullying aside. And yes, words does bully people. But I tell my daughter all the time, though, it's the mindset. Throw it behind you, put a smile on. So what? They said this. Is it true? Is it not true? Does it matter though? Why is it in your space affecting your entire life? So I like that. And I like the smile that you let her when you say throw it behind you. So I really believed you there.
Yeah, I throw those things behind my back and then.
But I'm seeing the nice breeze in your background. So do you live, are you still in Grenville area, or are you in St. George?
I'm in St. Andrews. I now live in a more rural area. I'm in Pearls, and I'm loving Pearls.
Yeah, Pearls. And just for my viewers, Pearls is rural in comparison to Grenville, because Grenville is the town. But you know what? I'm going to point that out because, I mean, even growing up as a child, because I went to national college too before I migrated here, and my dream, though, I never saw myself living in Grenville after. I kind of spent my 2 years there and I taught there. Funny enough, I got an invitation. So you talk about being sought out, because I was doing biology and I got an invitation from Mr. Wall back then, the principal, to come to teach biology. But I was already teaching in St. George's. So I sent, you probably know, a friend of mine, I recommended a friend of mine. So that's another thing, yes, being sought out when you're really good at the things that you do and you put yourself and your integrity into it, people find you. But I was saying that my dreams, I never thought of myself moving back. So I like, St. George's kind of had everything, and that became my 2-year life. So I like the fact that you accomplished, and you achieved a lot of things, but you still, we'll use it, a country girl, and a country girl doesn't mean, and I know even you talk about you eat green bananas and saltfish every day. And I know people, even when we were growing up, I remember, because I remember going to primary school, and this girl, and I won't name her, but she always brought a certain dish and that her parents gave her. And my mom was into bakes and stuff. So she used to give us some really cute bakes and put some little bits of cheese in it, and it's melted by the time. And this girl would bring green bananas and stuff. She would cry. She never, and I used to trade, right? We'll trade my tiny bakes and cheese, but she didn't realize the value of how much more healthier what she was eating probably was what. And Mom, I'm not putting you down, because I really love those tiny bakes too. But Mom just never liked to send us. But so I like the fact that even if you've made it and we go, you haven't abandoned where you're from. You're okay to talk about your alma mater. You're okay to say you're a country girl. I love the fact that you cook every day, So once again, guys, the authenticness of you. And because you make it doesn't mean you have to change core values about you.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you said people in your space. Not everybody that comes, you have to invite them in the space. Not everybody that calls you have to say yes, yet still being humble in it all. And I really appreciate that about you. So now I see why you're a senator, and now I see why you're a professor. And now I'm really glad that I had the opportunity to meet you. And honestly, I can't wait to see you on some campaign trail one day. I'm gonna be like, I know her, I'm like, I know it. I can hear it in her voice, So
I get that every single day over. And this is not a political statement. People call me and this, I can't wait to vote for you. And I can't wait. I had a lady, I went to the store to get something, and she said, so you mean you're going to let me die and not see a female prime minister? And I say, okay, no pressure. I have not even gotten into this discussion about presenting myself as a candidate as yet, even, though
the thoughts are, the wheels are churning in your head. Yes.
Persons have approached me to do that. and that's also something. No pressure. Don't let anybody pressure you
Mhm.
into doing something that you're not ready for. This is
Wow.
a big move.
Hmm.
These are big moves in life, especially in these times, and they have long-term impacts, not just for now.
Hmm.
Yes, you may get all of these recognitions and this and that and the next, but down the road, you want to look at the impact of that down the road as well. And so, I'm not gonna get, too antsy, to excited, to because people coming at you, it actually causes you to feel all that.
Yes, yes, I could imagine. Yes.
But I keep myself grounded. I
Mhm.
keep myself grounded, and I mean, I sometimes I do unpopular things.
Mhm.
Um, I like gardening. And so the rain would be drizzling, and I have a nice long back piece of land at the back. And so I planted about 45 pineapple plants. I have an
Wow.
avocado tree, I have a cherry tree, I
Oh,
have
wow.
bananas, I have all sorts of things.
Mhm.
And at the front, I have a flower garden. So,
Wow.
whenever I start getting a little stressed, or so, you must find some avenue to
To
let
release.
out your
Yes,
stress, to
yes.
release. And
Mhm.
so I like to go outside, barefooted sometimes,
It's good to
barefooted
make
sometimes.
contact with nature. It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
And I like that because this is really who I am. I had a young man come up to me and we were having a conversation, and he said, well, you're this and you just submitted your doctoral thesis and you're a
Mhm.
senator and you're this and you're that. And I paused him and I said, hold on. These are all things that I do. This is
Mhm.
not who I am.
Yes, yes, yes.
And we have to differentiate because
Mhm.
sometimes they kind of conflict each other, based on your values and so on. And so I try very, very hard to keep the two, together,
Wow.
so it makes a whole person, you
Mhm.
know. Yeah, but I like to keep the old school country girl, go outside with the cutlass and dig a hole and plant something, and it's just who I am. It's just
No,
who I am.
I like it too, and wow, you're bringing back because I mean I'm here, but I'm that girl too. I like to. I've gone home, and I plan to come home once COVID, and I like the gardening stuff, and I even here, no matter where we lived, I have to do the gardening. Whether we were I mean, I never lived in a high rise, but whatever, I had to buy a bucket and put the soil, and I tell my kids, I said, that was my most favorite thing home. And I know because I went to convent and it has a certain stigma back then when I was growing up and going to convent. But I really, really, truly enjoyed it. And I would tell my daughter, I said, because my dad was that kind of dad. And dad would say, when I'm like, Dad, can I have money to go to Intercall? He'd say, go pick up the nutmeg, go
Yeah.
plant. And I was like, fine, whatever. I pick up the most nutmeg that day, and I'll spend all the time by myself picking up nutmeg and go plant some corn or something. My mom's from Carrick, they plant corn and peas like crazy. So, but I like and I say I've never once, even though I wanted to live in St. George, it's just the sandflies were a problem for me
Yeah.
because I'm from Ladig. It's a little higher, closer to Grenada.
Right.
So, but I still always like the authentic being a country girl. And
Right.
I like that. I like the dirt. I like to plant. I like to feel. I like to walk barefoot. To this day, my sister still walks barefoot here in Canada. You can't, that girl in shoes. But I like the authentic you, and I like what the person that you are. And viewers, I really want to put it out there, and for all my Grenadian viewers, I genuinely think you're a very authentic person, and I really like that. I like the fact that you still live in the country. That um, accolades and all these things didn't change who you are, and you can have that lifestyle, but you, right? And I like that you stay true to you. So, in closing, for all the little girls, I have some male viewers too, and there's some from Grenada. So, just for kids growing up, girls, because it's a little challenging for us. It's more challenging for us. Somebody wants to follow your path or just be something more because they can't see past the drunken parents at home, or I don't know, but back then we didn't have electricity. We got it later on, so I had the lamp. And when I tell my daughter that, she thinks it's hilarious. I'm like studying in the lamp. But for
Yeah.
those kids who, no shoes, the struggling child, but they can't see that vision yet, what would you tell them? What advice would you leave to? I mean, you gave us a lot already, but what else can you tell us?
I think it's important for, youngsters to know who they are. So your circumstances really are not who you are. They may shape you, they may influence certain things, but that's not who you are.
Mhm.
So, one of the big things in the Caribbean is teenage pregnancy. So what? You got pregnant at that point. That does not stop you from becoming,
Mhm.
So you have to know who you are. And then you have to have goals. You
Mhm.
must have goals and pursue your goals with everything that you have.
Wow.
Don't let anybody, including
Self,
yourself,
yes.
don't let
Mhm.
anybody stop you from being who you know you can be.
Mhm.
Because we find at times people cut you down.
Mhm.
People cut you down, all this and all that and all the other. And, they bring back all of these circumstances that you're very aware of, anyways,
Mhm.
and they try to put you in this box
Yes, yes.
in this box, so you come from X background and this and
Mhm.
that and the next, so you should not be.
Mhm.
I wish we could all get past that,
I like
especially,
that.
for the young ladies out there. It's
Mhm.
very difficult for us as young ladies, growing up and trying to push. We hear of breaking the glass ceiling and all of these, Michelle Obama and those things. I mean, don't think they didn't have their challenges as well. Life comes with challenges. But I remember speaking to a group of young men. That's the first time I spoke to a complete group of young men,
Mhm.
footballers. Paralyzed FC invited me to speak to them. They were going into competition.
Mhm.
And I spoke to them. They didn't have a topic for me. And what I spoke to them on is, how badly do you want
Want
it?
it. Yes. Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
for the young people out there, the young ladies out there, you have a goal, you have a vision for your life.
Mhm.
How badly do you want it? And if you want it bad enough, then you will find ways, legal ways,
Yes.
effective ways
Mhm.
of achieving it. Sometimes you just have to explore, think outside the box.
Mhm.
You know, I used to do tours to make ends meet at one point because of my French and Spanish. I used to do
Wow.
modern language tours, on those, when the cruise ships come in, they would call
Wow.
and I would do tours. And that was
Mhm.
extra money, you know.
Mhm.
And I would do this. People would call me, and I like cooking. So somebody would call me, and could you make me this? And I charge,
Wow. Yes.
for it. And you
Yeah.
have to look at avenues for extra revenue sometimes,
Mhm.
or you have to think outside the box. Don't
Mhm.
think you're constrained by your situation. You have to find ways of moving forward.
Wow.
And always circle yourselves with people who
Yes.
can fuel you.
Mhm. I like that.
Don't, I mean, I had some people that I had to, not because I've arrived, as we would say in Grenada, but because they were not helping me to go,
Where you need it.
where
Yes.
I needed to go.
Mhm.
And so I still communicate with them, but they're no longer in my inner
In a
circle.
circle. Yes, it's true.
And you
Mhm.
have to know when to let go of some people, not completely, because as I said, I engage with everybody,
Mhm.
but you have to have different levels of engagement.
Yes, I
Um,
agree.
yeah, and just be yourself, push, 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 and it will happen. It will happen.
Wow. So thank you. And we should end, but you said a few things there that I wanted to point out. And you talk about friends, and I've said before on my channel, sometimes you got to let go of some friends, and it doesn't mean you can't be acquaintances. And I always say the ride or die girl is not the girl sometimes, because the one that's going to die with you is probably not the one you want to hang with. You want the one that'll tell you, this is stupid.
That's
Stop.
right.
We're not dying today. So don't know what, I know those, oh, mama, ride or die girl. Nah, you don't always need the ride or die girl. You want the friend sometimes that'll be like, and you said if you sometimes you do have to, most times you have to move from where you are. And if you're in a circle of people where the vision that you have for yourself, and I know it's hard sometimes to have a vision when you can't see past it, but there's little voices in us, whether you look up in the sky and you see a plane flying, you're like, man, one day. But if you notice your circle of friends around you are not going to take you there, you really sometimes have to step it. And even coming here, I remember in university, because coming when I came here, I came younger, and what they had on us was computers and stuff, because I didn't have that kind of background. I took a course, but I wasted time. I typed a lot. So I had to move. And I always tell my daughter that I remember as I was doing my bachelor's in science, and most of the kids like us were doing arts. And I said I had to walk out in faith and trembling with an accent and find those Russian girls, right? because they were the ones in the labs with me and I needed the help, you know?
Yeah.
I had to step out. I tell my daughter all the time. I remember girls like us, man, they're dressed to the T. I'm going because I have labs every day. I'm in running shoes and jeans, you know. And those girls that were my friends were all the nerds, you know. I'm using because I knew what I wanted, and the girls that was like me wasn't gonna give it, you know. So it didn't mean you had to be the enemies, but yeah, you really do. And I'm happy that you say that. And even for guys, you have to take yourself out to that place. And I remember this girl, this motivation speaker, I think it's Tanya is her name. She was saying, sometimes you have to you got to leave it completely because you can't take them with you. When you make it, because you really, some journeys you have to take on your own, and you're going to get a lot of naysayers sometimes, you know, what's she playing? You know, she thinks she's better. You know, you got to leave them. You might have to leave them for a little bit, get it, then go back to help them. Because if you try to drag them with you, you're just dragging yourself back. So thank you for that. And you said another thing that I wanted to point out before we close about people's words and all this stuff like that. And guys, yes, words are really, they could be damaging. They are. And if you have a weak will to spirit, they could really break you down. And Senator, I'm going to call you Senator now, because if you're going into politics on the main stage, you know, the people are going to say a lot of things. You really, I'm going to use your smile, throw them behind you and smile because you would wake up crying every morning probably by some of the things you see on Facebook about you, right? So especially for my younger viewers, because you're quite young, or you look very young, so good for you. To my younger viewers, you gotta let go. Yeah, don't let what people say affect you that way. And I remember, Senator, when I went to college, I was called country girl twice. I'll never forget that because that stood out. And it hurt because I didn't want to be a country girl then, right? And I remember this one guy, I think he was trying to pick me up, and I didn't think any, I guess you can tell by our accents, right? Because
Right.
accents are a little different from the St. George's kids, right? And I remember him saying, "Oh, who do you think you're? You're a country girl." And I remember to this day, I brought it to my friends. I said that day, it hurt me because I was like, oh my God, I sound like a country girl. Like he knew I was a country girl. And I had a teacher, I won't call his name, but he was not Grenadian. And I won't say what subject, but he always called me. I remember one day we had a little argument in class, and he said, man, let's make it a girl, a woman, not a country girl like you. Okay, that day though, I let him have it and I did walk out to the class. But I'm saying the words doesn't, no, it didn't derail me from college. Shockingly, he came and phoned me after because I didn't go back to class at all that week. And he came and apologized and said he was surprised that I stood up to him. So sometimes people, you got to stand up for yourself, being respectful though. But thank you for saying the words, and don't let those things change or derail who you are. Senator Tessa Sincere, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being really authentic. I genuinely felt it, and your smile is charming, and your whole demeanor. There's something calming and soothing and really engaging about chatting with you. And I appreciate that. And I love the fact that you're a country girl and you're a rural girl and you're farming and you're an educator. So you have an opportunity to change the world and to change the mind. And I love the fact that you're a guest here and you're an educator too, because you, I mean, we all have an opportunity to change the world, but it's like you that have that real, you know, you have the power. Every student you meet, you know, and people look up to you, that you can really change one mind at a time and change the world. So thank you for that. Anything else you want to say in closing?
Um, what I didn't say to you, is that I, I, I mean, I engage, as I said, I engage a lot. So I would have done, I mean, and this is to kind of encourage people as well, even your younger viewers or the older ones, to engage, because sometimes there are some groups of young people who really need a little push, a little encouragement. And so I made myself available for pro bono service, not
Wow.
so I
Yeah.
trained youth parliamentarians. I
Wow.
did um empowerment sessions. I do
I
all of
like that.
those things, you know, again, to have that kind of impact and to use my story
Mhm.
as one to kind of encourage and empower and to show young people that you could do this. You know, I genuinely love young people. And so
Mhm.
what I've started is a kind of chain reaction. So I have a WhatsApp chat with some young people, and we talk
Wow.
all things there:
Mhm.
politics, education. And so they in turn would talk to others. And that's how it happens. That's how we
Mhm.
get. You know, I grew up hearing, oh, the young people, and young people were always seen as problematic.
Yes.
And I had to say to a friend of mine not too long ago, you know, the child is just being a child. The child doesn't know anything else but to be a child. And
Mhm.
so sometimes you have to allow them to be the child or be the adolescent and guide them along and show them how this is going to happen or impact them down the road, or show them the short-term impacts of this, you know,
Wow.
because
Yes.
they're really looking for mentors. You know,
Mhm.
they're really looking for people to kind of guide them along. We say, oh, they go to school and they should know this, they're doing 9 subjects or they're doing this, but really and truly they need the help to move along. They do. And
Mhm.
so I would like to throw that out there to your viewers, your listeners. Find an avenue, find an initiative that you can engage in and to help and to
Wow.
empower and to, just make our communities a better place.
I like that. So I'm going to put you on the spot now. So for all my viewers in Grenada or even here, Senator Tessa St is open and willing. You can find her, I guess, if you Google her, or wherever Senate is home, and you can find her. But she's willing, she's able, she's open. If you need to chat, if you need some advice, if you need some mentorship, parents, if you need somebody to chat with about the direction your little girl or little boy is taking or want to take, Senator Tessa,
I would be most happy to
most
assist.
most happy to assist. Well, thank you so much, Senator Tessa. I'm really happy that we met.
Most welcome.
Thank you for saying yes when I randomly messaged you, and some girl just got your number saying, "Hey, can we chat? I have a women empowerment." But I'm happy that you came on. I'm really happy that you shared your story, and thank you for letting us know the genuineness of it. You came from humble beginnings, and you're still a very humble person, and thank you for that. And once again, guys, thank you. And to all my viewers, thank you. Remember to subscribe, remember to like, remember to pass it on to a friend, and remember to reach out to Senator Tessa St.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me.
Thank you.
Okay, bye bye.